Jake loved his grandma and her cozy cabin out in the countryside. All through his childhood and even into his teenage years, he would spend time in the small town of Willow Creek with the local regulars. Grandma Ruth was a kind woman, a bit quirky perhaps, but at her age, that was hardly surprising. When little Jake came to stay with her over the summer, she was already getting on in years, tiny in stature, her face wrinkled like an old map, a white scarf tied neatly over her head. She looked like a sweet little dandelion. Her personality matched too. Grandma Ruth was as gentle as could be. Jake never once heard her say a harsh word about anyone. Even when she scolded him, she did it with such care that he couldn't imagine disobeying her. The folks in Willow Creek adored her as well. The kids all called her Granny, and she always had something for them, whether a fresh-baked cookie or a piece of candy tucked away. Family rumors claimed Grandma had a special knack. However, Ruth and Carter never flaunted it. Word was she could see things regular folks couldn't catch with their eyes. "Who can't we see?" little Jake would ask his mom. "Oh, sweetie," she'd reply to her sleepy boy, "the world's full of all sorts, good ones and bad ones. Our grandma knows how to talk to them." Jake would drift off, dreaming of strange, shaggy beasts. Come morning, he'd forget it all. City life took over. Still, he kept visiting her until the end, fixing the porch, patching the well. At night, when dusk settled over Willow Creek, Jake Carter would sit at the table, set out the kettle, brew some fragrant tea, and listen as Grandma Ruth spun tales about life. Sometimes Jake would smirk to himself, half believing, when Grandma started talking about spirits and critters. He didn't put much stock in that stuff, but he listened respectfully and nodded like he was taking it all in. Right before she passed, Ruth brought up the inheritance, saying everything would go to her favorite grandson. She added one last thing, though. Out at the edge of the property, where the fence met the thick woods of Pine Hollow, there stood an old shed. Its lower logs had sunk into the dirt, the roof was blanketed in moss under the tree's shade, and the wood had blackened with age. "Don't mess with it, honey," Grandma warned as her voice faded. "Let it live out its days. Don't tear it down or fuss with it. I'll be gone soon, and it won't outlast me by much. Things will stay peaceful that way." Of course, Jake promised her the shed would stay put. There was no point in upsetting an old lady on her deathbed. Grandma Ruth passed quietly. She fell asleep one night and didn't wake up. The farewell and funeral went as smoothly as could be, and life rolled on. That first year, Jake was too swamped to visit his new country spot. Work piled up, his daughter Lily started first grade, and city routine swallowed him whole. It wasn't until midsummer the next year that he decided to head back to Willow Creek. They sent Lily to stay with her mom's folks, then Jake and his wife loaded up the car and drove out. They rolled in near evening. The cabin welcomed its new owner. They grabbed a bottle of wine and stepped onto the porch, soaking in the sunset quiet as night crept in. It's still in the country, the air is crisp. City folks like them got woozy fast. Why fight sleep? Feeling that sweet calm spread through their bones, Emily cleared the table, made the beds, and they sank into a deep, baby-like slumber. Morning broke with bright sun and a clear day. While Emily tackled the clutter inside, Jake set out to tame the yard. The grass out back was waist-high, like wading through a field. The electric mower hummed to life, and he got to work. By noon, most of the lot looked decent. All that remained was the patch near the fence. Jake poked around, picking up sticks and rocks the mower might hit, then stopped in front of the shed. It had been hidden by the overgrowth, only the mossy roof peeked out. He stepped carefully onto the rotting stairs and pushed open the creaky door. A damp, mushroomy smell hit him. The light switch was dead. Figuring he'd check it later, he grabbed the trimmer again. By evening, the yard was a neat lawn. It turned out even Grandma's old perennials had survived the dry spell. Emily had the house looking half-decent too. It wasn't bad at all. "What if we brought Lily and my mom up here for the summer?" Emily asked. "Could work for the rest of her break," Jake agreed. "I've got to figure out what to do with that shed, though." "What's wrong with it?" she inquired. "It's a wreck," he replied. That night, Jake woke to an odd noise, hissing, then a rustle like leaves. He got up, stepped onto the porch, and circled the house, hunting the sound. It came from the shed. He froze, baffled. He couldn't believe his ears, but there it was. Someone was steaming in there. That telltale hiss of water hitting hot stones, even a flicker of light, puzzled him. Jake hesitated at the door. Scared, curious, torn, he knew the shed had no power, yet this felt impossible. Who'd be steaming in his shed, and where did that light come from? With a loud huff, Jake yanked the door open. Thick darkness stared back, and silence rang in his ears. "No way," he muttered, shaking off his imagination. He peeked inside again, nothing was there. Shrugging, he trudged back to the cabin. Next morning, when Emily asked where he'd wandered off to, he said he'd hit the bathroom, dodging the real story. The weekend was winding down. The place was tidied up, and it was time to head back. Work loomed ahead. Before leaving, Jake grabbed a flashlight to scope out the shed's damage one last time. The work door groaned as he ducked inside. The beam lit up soggy, blackened wood. It was grim stuff. The floor, where an old water tank once sat, had rotted through. He aimed the light at the bulb socket, which was empty. Last night's weirdness flashed back. "Yup," he said, scanning the gloomy space. His hand brushed the rough wall. "I've got to tear it down and build fresh," he declared aloud. The walls creaked, as if they didn't approve. Jake spun around, sweeping the flashlight. For a split second, a shadow darted past. The beam hit every corner, it was empty. Then the door slammed shut. His heart pounded, he needed air. He shoved the door, but it wouldn't budge. To hell with this, he snapped, mad at himself. With a hard kick, he smashed it. The door split in two and crashed into the yard. Instantly, a tight band squeezed his chest. His vision blurred, breathing turned ragged. Gasping, Jake stumbled out, clinging to the walls, desperate to escape the shed's grip. Outside, he dropped to his knees. Within a minute, the fresh air eased him up. Pressing a hand to his chest, he felt his heartbeat steady. But a weight lingered on his shoulders. Blaming the shed's stale air, he stood and walked off. Emily caught his rattled look. "Jake, what's wrong?" "You're pale as a ghost," she said. "I felt off," he replied. "Check the shed, it's stuffy as heck and got me woozy." "Do you want to lie down?" she offered. "Nah, I'm good." "Load up, let's head home." Slamming the trunk shut, Jake turned as Emily called from the porch, "Wait. You forgot this bag." "Too late," he said. "Toss it in the back." She opened the car door. "Jake, what's this for?" "Planning a spa day in the city," she asked, puzzled. "Huh? What are you on about?" he said, facing her. "This," she said, lifting a dried-out sauna whisk from the floor mat. "Where did that come from?" he frowned. "Chuck it, I've got no clue how it got there." Emily tossed it under the porch bench. Half an hour later, their car sped down Route 66 toward the city. Lily bolted out at the sound of the door. Mom, you're back," she cried, hugging Emily tight. "Lillipad," Emily laughed, "it's only been 2 days." "Why are you here and not at Grandma's?" Lily asked. Emily's mom stepped out. "We got back yesterday," she explained. "So, how was your getaway?" "Pretty solid, Mom," Emily replied. "The cabin's sturdy. Jake and I were thinking it'd be nice to send you and Lily up there for the break." "Why not?" Grandma agreed, squeezing Lily. "Fresh air would do us good." The door swung open again. Jake walked in. "Dad!" Lily shouted, racing over, but she stopped short. "What's up, kiddo?" Jake asked. "Didn't you miss your old man?" He opened his arms. Lily hesitated, then hugged him awkwardly. "All good now," Emily's mom said. "Since you're back, I'll head home." "I'll drive you," Jake offered. "Mom, who's that lady who came with you?" Lily asked as Emily started puttering around. Raising an eyebrow, Emily said, "What lady?" "It was just me and Dad." "Maybe you saw a neighbor behind him on the stairs?" Lily shrugged, unsure. The jingle of keys cut in. Jake was back. "Smells like dinner," he grinned. The chest weight vanished once he was home, and that lifted his spirits. After eating, they plopped down for TV. The night went smoothly. Work loomed tomorrow, so Jake hit the sack early. After tucking him and Lillian, Emily headed to the bathroom. Opening the door, she froze. Dry leaves littered the floor from who knows where. She grabbed a broom from the kitchen and swept them up. Staring in the mirror, she muttered, "Man, travel really wears you out." Reaching for the faucet, she barely turned it when scalding water hissed out. She yelped and jerked back. Hot drops stunned her hand, leaving red marks on her skin. "Dang it," she hissed, shutting the tap fast. The water cooled off. She patched herself up and crashed. Morning came with Jake's alarm. He shuffled to the kitchen, flipped on the kettle, then hit the bathroom. He stopped dead. Under the sink, all their sponges and loofahs were piled up. Hearing Emily stir, he called, "What's with the sponges? Are you swapping them all out? Why not trash them?" Peering over his shoulder, she blinked. "I've got no idea who did that. Maybe Lily was playing." She checked Lily's room. The kid was still snoozing. "She's out," Emily shrugged at Jake. After seeing him off to work, she went to wash up. Turning on the sink, she lathered her face. A creepy giggle echoed nearby. Startled, she shot upright and glanced around. Nobody was there. Soap stung her eyes. Rinsing fast, she heard it again. Chills raced down her spine. Backing against the wall, she stared at the shower curtain. With a shaky hand, she yanked it open. It was empty. Lily woke soon after, and the day flew by with chores. Nothing else weird popped up. Jake got home that evening, and Emily spilled about the bathroom oddness. "I don't know, Em," he said. "Maybe you misheard?" "I don't know," she replied. "It's freaky. Last night the tap shot boiling water at me, then the sponges this morning unsettled me." "Chill," Jake cut in. "Don't overthink it. It's just random stuff." "Lily," Emily said to their girl, "time to wash up and hit the hay." Quietly, Lily asked, "Can I shower tomorrow instead?" "Why's that?" Emily frowned. "Now's perfect. That old lady doesn't like people in the bathroom at night. She gets mad." Jake and Emily stared at her. "What old lady?" Jake asked. "The one who came with you from the cabin," Lily replied. Jake shot Emily a look. "The day we got back, she thought some lady followed you and," Emily explained. Jake eyed Lily. "Kiddo, I swear it was just me and Mom. Want to check the place together? Every corner, no strangers here." Lily nodded. "Mom, can I still wait until tomorrow?" "Nope," Emily said firmly. "I'll help you, we'll make it quick." Lily slumped off to undress. Emily sat, brow furrowed. The kids' talk and her own weird noises were off and unnatural. But logic screamed it was silly to take it seriously. "Don't overthink," Jake's words echoed in her head. "The kid's imagination is running wild. I'm no expert, but that happens." That night, Lily's scream jolted them awake. Half asleep, they bolted to her room. She was huddled in the corner of her bed, sobbing hysterically. Spotting Emily, she leapt into her arms. "I told you, Mom," she wailed. "The lady's mad when we use the bathroom at night." "Lily, calm down, it's okay. No lady here, just a bad dream," Emily soothed. "No, Mom," Lily insisted, tugging her nightgown. "Look, she ruined it." The hem was shredded into strips. Emily trembled at the sight. "I don't care what you say, I'm not leaving her here another second," she snapped at Jake. "Drive us to my mom's." An hour later, he sat at his mother-in-law's place. I don't know," he mumbled. "Maybe Lily tore it herself? Ghosts? A priest? How's that going to look?" "I don't care how it looks. Stop acting like our kid's crazy. Do you think I'm nuts too?" I heard that laugh. "Do what you want, but I'm not stepping foot back there until it's gone." Leaving them there, Jake drove home. The apartment was dead quiet. He checked every room, it was empty but for him. For hours remained until the alarm. Lights off, he tried sleeping. Thoughts stampeded through his head. He couldn't grasp what was happening. Believing in ghosts like Emily did? That was a no-go. First, he reasoned, nothing's happened to me here. Second, Lily's a kid, she could have dreamed it up. Lost in thought, he slipped into a fitful sleep. Grandma Ruth appeared, sad-faced, white scarf on, shaking her head. "Oh, Jakey," she pleaded with tears, "why didn't you listen? I told you to leave the shed be. Let it fade out on its own. The Skinner will leave her home when it's time." Jake woke, dazed. It was his first dream like that. Guess that's what they call a warning dream, he thought. Then he recalled Grandma's old plea about the shed. Ridiculous. The Skinner? What a name. All I've heard lately is nonsense about some spook. Now it's in my dreams, Jake grumbled. He got up, set on ending the chaos. Laughing, huh? Call a priest? Fine, I'll get her a priest. I'll swing by the church before work and spin my finger at my temple so they know how dumb this is. Fully awake, he hit the bathroom to freshen up. Splashing cool water on his face, he heard a rustle. Something hit the floor. Without looking up, he glanced down. A dry cedar whisk lay on the tiles. His pulse raced. Slowly straightening, he stared ahead. His hair prickled, goosebumps erupted. In the doorway stood a hideous hag. Bulging, milky eyes looked ready to pop. Her hooked nose and neck twisted into a sick grin. The moment their eyes locked, she cackled and lunged. Jake didn't fight. Pain sliced his back like razors, carving deep tracks. The tight bathroom gave no room to turn. He crawled to the door and slammed it shut with his back. On the other side, the thing scratched wildly at the thin coating. Grabbing clothes and keys, he bolted from the apartment. At his mother-in-law's, Emily patched his torn-up back. "I told you," she said with tears falling. "You didn't believe me. Some evil's in our place." "Yeah, sorry, I didn't buy it," Jake said. "Then this morning, I had a dream. Grandma chewed me out for wanting to ditch the shed." "What shed?" Emily asked. "The one at the cabin. Way back, Grandma Ruth begged me to keep it standing and not tear it down. It's half sunk into the ground now." In the dream, she mentioned some Skinner. "The Skinner?" Emily echoed. "Yeah, who cares?" Jake snapped, then paused. "Wait, how do you know that?" "Hold on," she said, grabbing her laptop. "Yesterday, while cooking, I had Channel 13 on. You know, all that mystery junk for background noise. They did a bit on old folklore, house spirits, tricksters, stuff our ancestors knew. One was called the Skinner, a nasty shed dweller with her own rules. Grandma told me about shed spirits as a kid. What's the Skinner got to do with it?" Jake asked. "It's the same thing. Mess with her or break her rules, and she'd scald you with hot water at best or strip your skin off at worst." Emily pointed at the screen. Jake read aloud, in old American settler tales, "There's a mean spirit, the shed Skinner. She looks like a wild, scruffy crone, shows up bare, and is dangerous because she'll peel your hide. She hates folks acting rude in her space. They'd appease her with cornbread or a fresh cedar whisk." "Some myth," Jake finished. "Did your show say who to call to boot her out?" Emily shook her head silently. That day, Jake called work for 2 days off. Next morning, he hit a nearby state park, snipped cedar twigs, and tied a whisk. Back home, he paused in the hall, listening. It was dead quiet. The bathroom door hung open. He flicked the light, recalling their last run-in. The door's coating dangled in neat strips, clearly the Skinner's work. Dry leaves sprinkled the floor. He stepped in, set the whisk down, and pulled out a note in Emily's handwriting. "Old shed lady, let me send you home and spare my place your wrath. Take this fresh whisk as a gift, carry it back to your old haunt," he read. His vision dimmed. Like at the cabin, his chest tightened, shoulders sagged under a heavy load, breathing got tough. Gripping the walls, he stumbled to the kitchen and flung the window open. Fresh air rushed in. After deep breaths, it eased. Back in the bathroom, he grabbed the whisk, left, and drove off. An hour later, he pulled up to the Willow Creek cabin. Grabbing tools, he headed to the shed. He propped up the door he'd kicked out last time and screwed on new hinges. Inside, he set the whisk on a shelf and said, "I promise the shed stays until it falls apart on its own." Outside, Jake felt the shoulder weight lift. He raced to his mother-in-law's and spilled it all to Emily. "Do you think it worked?" she asked. "I hope so," he replied. They returned home a couple of days later, just them first, wary it was all nonsense. Soon, they brought Lily too. Nothing strange happened after that. Jake kept his word and left the shed alone. He just shifted the fence, shrinking his lot, and let the old shack and its tenant fade into the woods in peace. This This camping trip would stick with the guys for the rest of their lives. They sat around a creaky wooden table in an old weathered cabin, hands clutching enamel mugs of steaming coffee, trembling with a fine, unstoppable shiver. Across from the young men sat an old woman. Her gnarled, arthritis-twisted fingers fidgeted with the cold beads of a rosary while her gaze fixed on her visitors. She mumbled something under her breath. That stare sent chills racing across the guy's skin. "This cabin you're holed up in right now," Jake began. "How did it all come to this?" "The past's a muddy river," the old woman croaked. "I'm ancient as dirt. How do I manage, you ask? What keeps me going?" Miles around, not a soul in sight, Jake pressed on. "Ain't you a nosy one?" she shot back and squinted one eye. Jake clamped his mouth shut and went quiet since he was already feeling rough. "Don't go prying about me, kid. Tell me about yourself," she said, locking eyes with him. "How'd you end up at that bar? Where'd you come from?" Jake sniffed hard. He spoke of the past few days, explaining how she'd saved them when they were half out of their minds. The weekend was coming, so the whole crew had planned a camping trip with an overnight stay. There were 3 of them, Jake and his 2 college buddies, Matt and Tommy. Dependable and focused, they'd prepped thoroughly with gear packed well in advance. Right after their history finals were done, they hit the road. The plan was simple, a 1-hour train ride, then a hike to a little town called Red Hollow. Way back, it was called Silent Bend, tucked deep in the woods, surrounded by towering pines that hid its folks from the world. Not many lived there, just scraping by with a tiny chapel of their own. That lasted until the government rolled in with big ideas about progress, turning private lives public. They renamed the town and tore down the chapel, leaving jagged brick ruins. At first, they tried bringing order, reason, and good intentions to the locals' way of life. But this was rural America, and dark minds steeped in faith didn't take kindly to it. Soon, the effort fizzled out. Why bother? If they wanted a better life, they'd head to the city. If not, who'd judge them? Before long, folks started leaving Red Hollow. Some went to nearby towns while others moved to the city. Ask them why they abandoned their homes, and they'd clam up. Only once did a straggler mutter something about the chapel's ruin being a bad omen, words laughed off later. Then the town faded from memory. Word came one day that it had burned down. Maybe looters greedy for scraps torched it on their way out. Or perhaps something else went down. Either way, Red Hollow vanished, leaving only the chapel's ruins where stubborn saplings poked through the cracks, hinting at a village long gone. Still, the spot was gorgeous. Just past the first line of trees lay a massive lake. That's where the guys were headed, planning to pitch tents for a couple of days, fish, and escape the grind. With a brisk pace, they followed an overgrown trail toward the lake. Reaching a key landmark, Tommy asked, "How long's it been wrecked?" "Long enough," Matt replied. "We were probably still in diapers or crawling," he chuckled. Jake shrugged off his backpack and stepped closer. The others followed. Inside the crumbled chapel, they stood dead center. Faded frescoes of saints, peeling but calm, stared down at the unexpected visitors. "Must have been real pretty once," Matt said thoughtfully. Even though college had drilled into them that God was nonsense, standing amid the wrecked chapel felt heavy, sad, and grand all at once. Outside, they scoped the area. A rusty old trailer sat nearby, its roof half turned into a garden with overgrown weeds. One grimy window still had glass, though it was too murky to see through. Beyond the trailer stretched a graveyard. The left fence, or what remained, had collapsed in spots and stood crooked in others. The graveyard barely counted as one anymore, wooden crosses rotted away, and stone markers either sank halfway into the dirt or lay shattered. Fewer than 10 stood whole. After poking around the mess, the guys grabbed their packs and headed for the lake. They needed to set up camp and build a fire, hoping to catch the evening bite. Soon, the tent was up, and a fire pit was rigged with bricks to keep the flames from spreading. Fishing gear ready, the lake's glassy surface beckoned. Ripples spread here and there. "Look at that, fish are jumping," Matt said. "Hands are itching to get started," Jake added. "You sure you don't want to come?" they asked Tommy. "Nah," he waved them off. "I'll stick here, mess with camp stuff, and maybe wander a bit." Jake and Matt paddled out while Tommy strung a rope between trees in case they needed to dry gear. A noise caught his ear, like something crashing through thick brush. Unease crept up his spine, and a cold prickle ran down it. The sound grew louder with snapping twigs close by. Grabbing a camping hatchet just in case, Tommy braced himself. The racket peaked as if whatever it was would burst onto the clearing. Bushes shook hard. He gripped the handle tighter, but then silence fell. Parting the branches, he scanned the woods. Nothing appeared. Turning back, he muttered, "Guess I imagined it," and kept at his tasks. 2 hours later, Jake and Matt returned from the lake, hauling a solid catch. Fish stew was going to be rich and hearty. "Fishing again at dawn?" Jake asked. "Nope," Matt said. "I'm hiking the woods tomorrow and might grab some mushrooms for frying." "I'll tag along," Tommy chimed in. "Then we'd better crash early." After an hour of aimless chatter, waiting for the sun to dip behind the trees, Matt and Tommy hit the tent to settle in. Jake stayed by the fire. Night woods had a mystery to them, darkness closing in and the soft crackle of burning twigs lulling him. Sitting there with thoughts drifting slow, a loud snap rang out a few steps behind. He snatched the flashlight and aimed it toward the sound. Nothing showed up. Maybe some night bird, he figured, turning back to the flames. A minute later, the snap came again. Standing, Jake swept the flashlight ahead and stepped toward the trees. The beam caught only still branches. One step into the thicket, he froze. Something rolled out of the dark and bumped his feet. Aiming the light down, he screamed. There in the glow, a skull stared up with empty sockets. Still yelling, Jake bolted back to the tents. His shouts yanked the groggy guys awake. There, Jake stammered, jabbing a finger toward the woods. "What's out there? Why were you hollering?" Tommy asked, shaking him. "A skull rolled right at me." Jake gasped, trembling hard. "What skull?" "Let's check it," Matt said boldly, grabbing the flashlight from Jake and marching off. For a minute, the beam flickered through the bushes. "Nothing here," Matt called. "Come see." Jake and Tommy followed his voice. The woods were dark and quiet with no skull in sight. "Maybe you imagined it?" Matt asked, eyeing Jake with concern. "In the dark, anything can seem real," Jake mumbled, glancing around. "Sorry, guys, I freaked out and spooked you too. It was so damn real, rolling out like that." "Don't sweat it," Tommy clapped his shoulder. "It happens." 10 minutes later, calmer, they crawled into bed. Tommy woke first at dawn, lying still and listening. Oddly, the morning woods were dead silent with no birds or rustling. "No way," he grumbled, crawling out of the tent. Stepping outside, he froze speechless. Blackened bushes and charred trees looked like hellfire had swept through. The ground shimmered with a thick shifting haze. "Move, let me out," Jake nudged him. Stunned by the scene, Jake ducked back inside. "Guys, get out here." Seconds later, all three stood by the tent. "What's the deal?" Matt asked, squinting in the sunlight. "I swear it was a firestorm, no birds and smoking ground everywhere." Tommy rattled off. "Doesn't even smell burnt," Jake cut in. "But I saw it." Tommy insisted. "I saw stuff too yesterday," Jake grinned, slapping his back. "Weird as hell," Tommy muttered, raking a hand through his hair. After a quick breakfast, Tommy and Jake prepped fishing gear while Matt set off to explore. 30 minutes later, Matt strolled through the woods. Dry twigs snapped underfoot, birds sang loud, and sunlight pierced the canopy, casting playful shadows. It felt so peaceful he wanted to sit and soak it in. A mossy oak caught his eye. Settling against it, he shut his eyes. Sun rays danced through the leaves, warming him like gentle hands. Not a breeze stirred. Matt sighed content. A sharp crack snapped near his ear. Matt jolted, tumbling off the tree onto the moss, then sprang up with his heart pounding. The calm was gone. Black clouds swallowed the sky, and wind bent treetops like it was furious. Bare broken stumps replaced slender branches. Another crack sounded behind him. Spinning around, Matt screamed. A hanged man swayed on a rope from a jagged limb with his blue tongue lolling out. Matt tore through the bushes, running blind. Far enough from the nightmare, he stopped gasping. Then that familiar crack came again. He froze, too terrified to look. A twig snapped closer. Nearly fainting, he sensed it. The thing from the tree stood yards away. Its crooked neck, bluish skin, and wide eyes were blank with white film, wild and empty. Matt shook with dread. Backing away, he kept his eyes locked on it. "He's around here." Tommy's voice suddenly yelled. "Tommy!" Matt bellowed with all he had. "Over here," he shouted, turning toward the sound. Like a twisted tail, Matt blinked and found himself on a sunlit clearing, pressed against a tree. Nothing was there. "Why were you yelling?" Jake asked. "We heard you from the lake." "Guys, something freaky's going on," Matt said, rubbing his face as if to shake off a spell. "We need to leave since the trip's over. First Jake with that skull, then you, Tommy, with the burnt woods." No debate followed. They might not buy into God or ghosts, but their own eyes didn't lie. 2 hours later, gear packed and packs on, the trio marched away from the cursed spot. Tommy spoke up first. "Guys, I'm telling you we're looping." "No way," Jake scratched his head as chills crept up his spine. "We are," Tommy pressed. "This trail?" "Second time past that wrecked chapel." "Let's hit the chapel, tweak the route, and go from there," Matt suggested. At the chapel's base, they mapped a plan, confident it'd work, and set off. 1 hour later, they were back at the same spot. 3 more tries with new paths each time yielded the same result. "This can't be real." Matt exploded. "What is this, a fairy tale? Shadows, visions, and some kind of madness? I'm a straight-A student who doesn't buy into devils or gods. I'll find the way." Dumping his pack at their feet, he stormed into the woods. The guys stood quiet. Matt had a point. They were practical, focused guys, and superstitions were old wives' tales. Yet each had seen something. Madness doesn't hit a whole group at once, does it? "Matt!" Jake yelled, trying to call him back. "I'm done." Tommy slumped onto the grass. "Am I losing it? This can't happen." "Jake?" "I don't believe it either," Jake said. "Let's wait for Matt and try again." 30 minutes later, Matt stumbled out scratched and wild-eyed. "I'm back," he rasped, clutching his head. I'm rational," he repeated. Jake sat beside him and gave his shoulder a reassuring pat. "Guys," Jake started upbeat, "let's camp here tonight. Tomorrow, with a fresh start and clear heads, we'll find the way." No choice but to agree. Another escape attempt felt impossible. They rebuilt the fire pit with bricks, cooked a meal, and sat apart silent. Heavy thoughts churned. The past night and morning had flipped their worldview upside down. Together and alone, they each faced something logic couldn't touch. Evening crept in. As night swallowed the woods, they edged closer to each other and the fire. No one wanted to be alone. "I hate admitting it, but I'm scared," Matt whispered. "That hang guy's face won't leave my head. So creepy, and it moved. Am I crazy?" "Then we're all crazy," Jake said. "That skull rolling at me scared me stiff." "Shoo," Tommy nodded. "Hear that?" They strained their ears. A wet smacking sound came from the graveyard. Chills raced down their spines. "We check it together," Tommy whispered, flicking on the flashlight. Matt grabbed the hatchet, and Jake picked up a stick. They crept toward the graves. Past the rusty fence, they paused by the first stones, sweeping the light around. After a moment, convinced it was nothing, they headed back. Matt stepped out first and stopped cold. The others bumped into him, staring at their camp. On a log by the fire sat a figure in a drab cloak and a crumpled wide-brimmed hat, facing them. "Well, boys, why were you standing there?" "Mind if I join your fire?" a voice rasped from under the hat. Jake snapped out of it first. "Hey, didn't expect company, that's all." "Sit, please," he said, walking toward the stranger. The others followed, settling around the fire for a slow chat. "So, boys, nothing odd happened out here?" the stranger asked abruptly. They went quiet. His face stayed hidden since he kept the hat low and head tilted. "Coffee," he mused. "Nah, I'm good," Matt said. "What's wrong with it?" Tommy frowned. "You're kind, brewed on bones," the stranger giggled. "What are you on about, man?" Tommy snapped. "Me? You're the ones collecting skulls," he cackled. Stunned, they turned to the fire. The pit's bricks were gone, replaced by skulls. "Ah!" Jake yelled. Matt bolted too. The stranger let out a long, eerie wail, making their hair stand on end. Tommy ran first, sprinting to the trailer and yanking the door. It creaked open. He dove in with Matt and Jake piling after. Slamming it shut, wild laughter echoed outside, animal-like. A minute later, silence fell. Something thumped onto the roof. The old tin shook hard. Huddled against the walls, they whimpered in terror. "Think it's gone," Matt whispered, ears straining in the quiet. "Maybe peek?" "Don't open the door," Tommy hissed. "We stay till morning, and no one touches the lock." "I'll try the window," Matt said, creeping to the dusty pane. Rubbing a clear spot with his sleeve, he pressed his face to it. Suddenly, the hangman's mangled face, the same one from the woods, slammed against the glass. Matt yelped, stumbling back. A sickening scrape followed. The thing clawed the window with its long nail screeching, raising goosebumps. "Matt," it rasped. "Matt, open up. Why were you hiding? Let me in, let's talk. You've dodged me all day, don't piss me off, Matt." Matt stared, paralyzed with fear. "I don't want to be alone, Matt," it droned. "I want more of us. Come out, come to me. Get lost." Jake roared. "God, if you're real, save us," he shouted to the void. "Shut up," the thing snarled. "Shut up." Jake kept yelling. "If you're there." A bell rang out deep and clear, piercing the night. The creature howled, shaking the trailer one last time before vanishing as if its hunt was lost. The guys huddled mute till dawn. Tommy cracked the door, peering out. Nothing hinted at the night's horror. They stepped into the open. The fire's embers glowed, ringed by bricks again. Glancing up, they saw the chapel's dome, too ruined for any bell to toll. A branch snapped behind them. "Ah!" Jake yelled. "Quit hollering, you fool." "Scared me half to death," a voice barked. An old woman stood on the path, ancient as the hills, clutching a basket of church candles. Ignoring them, she shuffled to the chapel ruins, climbing the debris inside. They trailed her. At a surviving icon, she lit the candles, placing them one by one. Hands on hips, she turned. "Why were you loafing around, yelling like lunatics?" "We came camping and stopped here, but now we can't leave," Matt blurted. "Something weird's going on." "Weird, huh?" She squinted. Tommy asked, "Ma'am?" The old woman trudged out of the chapel and plopped onto a log. "Me," she said. "It's Sunday, a holiday. Too old to hike to town's church, so I pray here." "Why can't you leave?" "Dunno," Jake said glumly. "Walked all day yesterday in every direction and ended up back here. Can you help?" "Maybe," she sighed. "Pack your stuff, turn your shirts inside out, and follow me." "Why inside out?" Jake blinked. "To shake off the devil," she grumbled, hobbling into the woods. No time to argue. Shirts flipped, they chased after her. 1 hour later in her cabin, she poured strong coffee into enamel mugs, listening to their tale. "We don't know what it was," Jake finished. "Without you, who knows how it'd end." "That's it," she rasped. "The devil toyed with you and nearly drove you mad." She fell silent with lips moving in a soundless mutter. The guys quieted too, each lost in thought. One thing they agreed on, over 2 nights, they'd felt a force that scared them and one that saved them, nothing like their college profs or history books ever taught.